So I just moved into this new apartment a few weeks ago. It's an older building, but it's in a great location and the rent is pretty reasonable. I was super stoked to find it. Anyway, things were fine for the first week or so, but then I started hearing this scratching sound in the walls. It's not constant, but it happens at all hours of the day and night. It's like something's moving around in there, scratching at the drywall or something. I mentioned it to my landlord and he just kind of shrugged it off. He said it's an old building and that it's probably just normal settling. But I don't know, man, it seems weird to me. I tried to ignore it at first, but it started to get to me after a while. I'm a pretty light sleeper, and every time I hear that scratching, it wakes me up. I'm starting to feel really on edge at all times. I did some Googling, and I found a bunch of people talking about similar experiences. Some people said it could be mice or rats, but I haven't seen any droppings or anything. Others said it could be something more paranormal, but I'm not really sure what to believe there. Definitely starting to get creeped out, though. One night, I was lying in bed trying to sleep when I heard the scratching again. It seemed like it was coming from the wall right behind my head. I got up and put my ear to the wall, and I could hear it even more clearly. It sounded like something was trying to claw its way out. That was creepy enough to make me spend the rest of the night at a friend's place. The next day, I went back to the apartment and tried to act like nothing had happened, but I could not shake that feeling that something was wrong. I didn't want to go back to my apartment, but I didn't really have anywhere else to go. I started noticing a few other weird things too. Like, I would feel like someone was watching me, even when I was alone in the apartment, and I would hear strange noises like whispers or footsteps even though there was no one else there. I started to think maybe I was imagining things, going crazy, but then one night I had a really terrifying experience. I was asleep in my bed when I woke up to the sound of someone knocking on my door. I looked at the clock. 3 a.m. I was really freaked out because I didn't know who would be knocking on my door at that hour. I got up and went to the door, but when I looked through the peephole, I didn't see anyone there. I thought maybe it was a prank, so I opened the door. But there truly was no one there. I stepped out into the hallway and I looked around. There was no one in sight. I was really confused, so I started to feel kind of scared. I went back inside and closed the door. I was about to try to go back to bed when I heard the knocking again. This time, it was coming from the wall behind my bed. I froze in fear. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there, listening to the knocking, my heart pounding in my chest. The knocking continued for a few minutes, and then it stopped. I stood there for a long time, just listening, but I didn't hear anything else. I finally went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I just lay there wide awake, listening for the knocking, but it never came back. I don't know what to make of that experience. I don't know if it was just a dream or if it was something more sinister, but it definitely freaked me out. I'm still living in this apartment, but I'm not sure how much longer I can take it. I'm constantly on edge, and I'm afraid to be alone in the apartment at night. I'm starting to think that maybe I should just move out, but I don't know where else I would go, and I don't want to leave my apartment just because I'm scared of some weird noises. I don't know what to do. I'm just really hoping whatever's causing these noises will go away. But I have a feeling it's not going to be that easy. Alright, I know this is going to sound crazy, but hear me out. I've been living in this apartment for about 6 months now, and things have been just downright weird. Something feels off, especially at night. It started with the smell. During the day, my place smells perfectly normal. You know, just like, well, an apartment. A little bit of dust, maybe some faint cooking smells from whoever lives next door. But at night, it changes. It's not a bad smell, exactly. More like old books and dust, and something almost metallic, like old pennies. It's strongest in the living room, and it gets more intense the later it gets. I thought maybe it was just me, or maybe something to do with the building, old pipes or something, but I asked my buddy to come over one night, and even he noticed it. He even made a comment about how it smelled like grandma's attic. Then there's the temperature. Again, during the day everything's fine, but at night, certain spots in the apartment get freezing cold, like walk-in freezer cold. It's mostly around the windows and near the closet in the hallway. I even bought one of those laser thermometers, and yeah, the temperature in those spots is significantly lower than the rest of the apartment. I checked the windows, no drafts, and the closet, it's just a closet. Nothing weird in there, just clothes and some old board games. I tried to rationalize it all. I told myself it was just the old building settling, or maybe some weird quirk of the ventilation system. But then the noises started. At first it was just little things. Creaks and groans that I chalked up to the building's age, but then it became more rhythmic, like 3 slow, deliberate knocks coming from the wall behind my bed, always around 3 a.m., every single night. I thought maybe it was the neighbors, but the thing is, the wall where the knocking comes from is an exterior wall. There's nothing on the other side but the alley. I even went outside one night around 3 a.m. and stood in the alley listening. Nothing. But the moment I stepped back inside, there they were. 3 knocks. Then things escalated. One night, I woke up to the sound of something dragging across the floor in the living room. It sounded heavy, like furniture being moved. I froze, heart pounding in my chest, and listened. The dragging stopped, and then I heard a soft thud, like something being dropped. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and crept towards the living room. The smell was overpowering now, thick and cloying. I flicked on the light, and nothing. Everything was exactly as I left it. I know this all sounds like a load of crap, right? But I swear it's all true. I'm starting to feel like I'm losing it. I'm barely sleeping. I'm jumping at shadows. I even went to the building manager about the noises, but he just gave me this weird look and said something about old buildings making noises. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. I'm starting to think about moving, but the thought of packing up all my stuff and starting over just seems exhausting. Plus, what if whatever's happening here follows me? Last night, though. Last night was different. I woke up to that familiar dragging sound, but this time, it was right outside my bedroom door. It stopped directly outside, and then I heard the soft thud again. I held my breath, listening, but there was nothing. Just an eerie silence. Then a slow, deliberate scratching started on my bedroom door, like something with long nails was dragging them down the wood. I'm not ashamed to admit I completely freaked out. I jumped out of bed, threw open the door, and, of course, there was nothing. Just the empty hallway, cold as ice, and that goddamn smell hanging heavy in the air. I haven't slept since. I'm sitting here in my living room, the sun's just starting to come up, and I'm terrified of what tonight will bring. I've been debating whether or not to post this for a while, but it's been wigging me out and I need some advice, or at least to share this with someone. I'm renting this pretty decent apartment. Nothing fancy, but it's in a good location and the price is right. I've been living here for about 5 months now, and for the past couple of weeks something very strange has been happening. It started subtly. I'd come home from work and find my door unlocked. At first I assumed I'd forgotten to lock it, even though I was pretty sure I had. It happened a few more times and I started to get a little uneasy. I mean, I live alone, and the thought of someone just waltzing into my apartment while I'm not there is not a pleasant one. I started double-checking the lock every time I left, even making a point of jiggling the handle to make sure it was secure, but it kept happening. I'd come home and the door would be unlocked. I even started taking pictures of the locked door with my phone before I left just to be sure I wasn't going crazy. One night, I was lying in bed reading a book when I heard a noise from the living room. It sounded like the door opening and closing. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I grabbed my phone and called the police, but by the time they arrived, there was no sign of forced entry, and nothing seemed to be missing. Police officers suggested it might be a faulty lock and recommended I talk to my landlord. The next day, I called my landlord and explained the situation. He seemed skeptical, but agreed to send a locksmith over to take a look. The locksmith checked the lock and said that it seemed fine, but he replaced it anyway just to be safe. I felt a sense of relief after the lock was replaced. I thought, finally, this is over. It was just a faulty lock. But I was wrong. A few days later, I came home to find the door unlocked again. This time, I was really starting to freak out. I mean, what the hell is going on? Was someone messing with me? Was there some kind of logical explanation for all of this? I started searching online for similar stories, and I found a few people who experienced the same thing. Some people suggested it might be a ghost or some other paranormal activity. Others said it could be a draft or changes in temperature causing the door to unlock. But none of those explanations really made sense to me. I decided to try to capture some evidence. I set up a hidden camera in the living room, pointing at the door. I also started keeping a journal, documenting every instance of that door unlocking, along with any other strange occurrences. For a few days, nothing happened. The door stayed locked, and I started to think maybe it was finally over. But then, one night, I woke up to the sound of the doorknob turning. I grabbed my phone and checked the camera footage. What I saw sent chills down my spine. The footage showed the door slowly unlocking itself, as if someone was turning the handle from the inside, but there was no one there. I watched the footage over and over again, trying to find a rational explanation, but there was none. It was like the door was unlocking itself. I haven't slept properly since. I can't stop listening for any sound from the living room. I've even started sleeping with a baseball bat next to my bed. I don't know what to do. I'm starting to think I might have to move out. But what if it happens again in the next place? Has anyone else experienced anything like this? Does anyone have any advice? I'm desperate. Edit. Holy crap, you guys, I did not expect this kind of response. I'm honestly a little overwhelmed and still terrified. Thanks to everyone who offered advice and shared similar stories. I'm going to try a few of your suggestions. Calling a locksmith again. Several of you pointed out that the first locksmith might have missed something, or maybe the lock is just a really crappy one. I'd love for this to have a non-paranormal answer, so I'm gonna go get a second opinion. Checking for drafts. Okay, I admit, I kinda dismissed this at first, but some of you had some very convincing arguments. I'm gonna go do a thorough check for any possible drafts that could be affecting the lock. Talking to my neighbors. This one freaks me out a little, but you're right. Maybe someone in the building has a key or knows something about this. I'll try to casually bring it up without sounding like a complete lunatic. I'm still planning to keep the camera running and documenting everything in my journal, and yeah, I'm definitely sleeping with a baseball bat for the foreseeable future. I'll keep you all updated. Wish me luck. Edit 2. Okay, update time. I talked to my neighbor across the hall, an older lady named Miss Henderson. She was weird. At first she acted like she didn't know anything, but then she started giving me these really intense looks and asking me if I had seen anything unusual in the apartment. I played dumb, but it definitely creeped me out. She also mentioned that the previous tenant in my apartment moved out suddenly, which my landlord failed to mention. The locksmith is coming tomorrow, so fingers crossed he finds something. I also checked for those drafts, but I couldn't find anything obvious. This whole thing's getting weirder and weirder. Edit 3. Okay guys, deep breaths. I don't even know where to start. This is gonna sound absolutely insane, but I think someone might be living in my apartment. Let me back up. The locksmith came yesterday. He checked the new lock, the door frame, everything. He said he couldn't find anything wrong. He even tested the lock like 100 times and it worked perfectly. He basically told me I was imagining things, which, to be fair, was starting to seem possible. But then, last night, it happened again. I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of the deadbolt clicking. I swear I almost had a heart attack. I grabbed the baseball bat and slowly crept towards the living room. The door was wide open. I know, I should have called the police, but something stopped me. Call it morbid curiosity, call it plain stupidity, I don't know. I had this overwhelming urge to see who or what was in my apartment. I took a deep breath and stepped into the living room. It was dark, but I could make out the silhouette of someone standing by the window. My heart was pounding so loud I thought it was going to burst out of my chest. I raised the bat, ready to swing. And then the figure turned around. It was a woman. She looked to be in her late 20s with long dark hair and pale skin. She was wearing a white nightgown and she was smiling at me. I froze. I couldn't swing, I couldn't speak, I couldn't even breathe. She just stood there smiling for what felt like an eternity. Then she turned and walked towards the hallway. I watched in horror as she disappeared into the darkness. I didn't move from that spot for a long time. I was paralyzed. Finally, I managed to stumble back into my bedroom and lock the door. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. This morning, I packed a bag and left. I'm staying at a friend's place for now. I don't even know what to do. I don't know who that woman was, how she got into my apartment, or why. I don't even know if she's still there. I called my landlord and told him I was breaking the lease. He was pissed, but I didn't care. I just wanted to get as far away from that apartment as possible. I don't know if I'll ever go back for the rest of my stuff. Maybe I'll just hire someone to get it for me, I don't know. Right now all I can think about is that woman's face, that unnerving smile. I'm starting to think that I might actually be going crazy. Or maybe, just maybe, there's something seriously wrong with that apartment. Something that goes beyond faulty locks and drafts. I don't know what to believe anymore. But I do know that I'm never going back there again. Thick and cloying. Thick and thith. Several of you pointed out that the first locksmith might have... Several of you pointed out that the first locksmith... Oh my god.